RCK. How are ordinary Scientologists supposed to clear the planet? Is going up the bridge and attaining clear and OT8 sufficient, and somehow the rest of us, seeing how great our Scientologist neighbor is doing, will come knocking on Scientology's door? Or are ordinary Scientologists supposed to evangelize people too? In which case, how do they handle questions from non-Scientologists about Xenu, family disconnection, Scientology in the Aftermath program, and what is found on the internet? How do they handle being told we're almost done clearing the planet, but at the same time there are a few people at the local orgs and a lot of non-Scientologists asking difficult questions? Seems to me one would reach one of two conclusions. One, Scientology is not facing reality, therefore how real can it be and I should leave? Or two, the present age is damned and only the enlightened few will be saved. Which leads to the next question: what does the afterlife look like for a Scientologist who has reached the highest level? Is the Thetan supposed to keep coming back in new bodies until the planet is cleared, gets to choose to go to another planet to clear it, wander around creation for the rest of eternity, blissfully not caring about uncleared planets, or what? Okay, thanks for your question, RCK. And I'm going to say first off that a lot of the questions you've answered here I have talked about in detail many times in the back catalog of my Q&A shows. So I would encourage you to go back and check out a lot of those earlier episodes where you'll get a lot of these detailed answers to stuff about Scientology's view of the afterlife and where they're going to go if they die and all that. Because, I've explained a lot of this stuff. But there was one thing in your question here that I wanted to get into, because that has to do with Scientology dissemination. And dissemination meaning spreading the word, evangelizing, as you mentioned. And Scientologists are heavily encouraged to disseminate or evangelize Scientology. And there's actually a drill that you do in Scientology in order to get good at talking to others about Scientology. And it was always like pulling nails, trying to get Scientologists to come and practice these drills and go out and disseminate. I mentioned in the last answer that there are a few Scientologists who get a lot of money by propagating the religion, by bringing people in, getting people on service. A lot of those people that they're getting back in are old Scientologists that they're recovering. It is actually, a lot of them think it's easier to get those old people back in than it is to go newly contact people. But there is a series of steps that Scientologists are told to do which will convince somebody that Scientology is for real and that they should be part of it. And I thought you'd want to know what those 4 steps are. They are contact, handle, salvage, and bring to understanding. And these 4 points are called the dissemination drill. Contact is simply, hi, how you doing? You contact the person. It's the handle step, which is the tricky part. And they do seminars and workshops on this, and they drill it. There's a whole course called the PTSSP course, which has a catechism as part of it. So people ask questions about Scientology, and Scientologists are drilled on this course about the answers to those questions. There's also a dissemination course that you can do, which will also have you go through this catechism. It's contained in the book, What is Scientology? And it's all these questions and answers, and you're drilled on it so you can answer these questions. But the problem is that none of those questions include, why is Leah Remini attacking Scientology? Do they actually have forced abortions in the Sea Org? What's this about L. Ron Hubbard locking a kid up in a chain locker? Like, none of those questions are in the What is Scientology catechism, right? So this is the problem, is that now Scientologists are being asked very sharp and pointed questions that they never used to have to deal with before. And so they could easily, sort of pull a no answer, which they're drilled to do, by the way. They're drilled on how to successfully not answer a question while making it appear that they are answering it. So they couldn't really get away with that so easily now, because people are more on to what Scientology is really all about. And this has created an incredible hamper in their ability to get new people in. So even drilling people on this contact, handle, salvage, bring to understanding thing isn't really working, because this handle step, they keep running into all of what they call black PR and enemy lines, right? Stuff I say, stuff Leah says. What we're talking about is true. It's real. It happened, or it happens right now. They can't deal with that truth, and they can't deal with that reality, and they don't want people thinking those horrible, awful things about what some Sea Org members and Scientologists get up to or have gotten up to in the past. So they just deny it. They just live in a world of denial. And that is how their question answering, unfortunately, comes across, because they don't have good, solid answers for that, except to say, oh, it's on the internet. You know how everything on the internet's a lie. They generalize. They have to sort of, disperse your attention or direct your attention off of that. So what they try to do is just invalidate the entire media through which that message comes. The internet's bad. SPs are bad, right? Critics are bad. Everybody who ever has anything bad to say about Scientology is evil and must be destroyed. And it is fascinating how these groups, one to one, get in that frame of mind. They cannot deal with critical thinking. So they only can poo-poo it, insult it, call the person names, etc. And that is how they deal with that stuff. Now, you mentioned the two options that you thought people would fall into here, where they would see that Scientology is not facing reality, and then maybe, how real can it be, and maybe I should leave, or to, we're the only few who are going to be saved. It's the second one that almost all, routinely these guys go into. When they do hit that wall of, oh man, this is not really, like these questions get a little bit too probing, a little bit too difficult, and they, start causing all kinds of cognitive dissonance and the guy's head blows up. That is also a source of getting people to leave. But generally speaking, it's hard. It's hard. It's not just a matter of planting a few seeds and then their head blows up and they leave. That seed planting can take a while, and Scientologists are really good at using the thought-stopping cliches to stop themselves from thinking about that stuff, right? Oh, he's just an SP. He's PTS. I don't have to listen to anything he says. He's just forwarding enemy lines. These are thought-stopping cliches. They just shut down thinking. You don't have to think about, forced abortions anymore because he's just an SP and I don't have to listen to anything he says because he's just a liar, right? Easy peasy. And that's how they keep the cognitive dissonance at bay. So how are Scientologists supposed to clear the planet? By going up the bridge, and by getting other people up the bridge. And it's all, what I think the second thing I wanted to sort of impart here on this question is that it's not really appreciated enough, I think, by people outside of these cult situations, how much of a blindfold the people in the cults are wearing, how thick and big and effective it is. There's not a lot of thinking going on in these groups. When we talk about thought-stopping cliches, when I use that phrase, it's a really good description of what it is. It stops thought. You don't have to think anymore. And when you've got these words that you can just sort of push out there and that's your thought-stopping cliche, then there isn't thinking going on here. So they don't think about how they're going to clear the planet. They don't think about how they're even going to get up the bridge. They just sort of make it go right. Right? That's the supreme test of a Thetan, is to make it go right. So that's what we're going to do. And that itself is a thought-stopping cliche. I will make it go right. I don't have to think about it anymore. It's just going to turn out okay. This is also known as magical thinking, and it's something that every single destructive cult member is well versed in doing because it's the only way they can keep the cognitive dissonance at bay and maintain their belief system. And that's really the sad, very, very sad but stark truth of what goes on with cult members.